We are now going to be installing the rear latch assembly that actually mounts, obviously, in the rear part of the door. It's already been modified. I put actually a little bit of felt tape on it. The glass is going to run really close to this, so you just want to felt it just to be on the safe side. Everything works like it did before. If you notice, it's actually locked right now. Now, works all the way. With the rear latch assembly already installed, this is what it's going to look like from the inside. You can tell it's fully functional. And the lock itself works as well. Okay, the next piece that's going to go in is the actual regulator. You will notice that it has been modified. The teeth assembly that we we showed you earlier how to modify has been modified. Bolts right in. You got two holes here. I mean, 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. Bolts into the original position. I tie strap the cable to the motor so it doesn't come off on install. I just don't like these flapping, so I normally tie strap them. We've already also changed the rollers. The outside rollers, which are the ones that go directly to the glass, this is where the new C channel runs. Those actually are the ones that are changed. The third one on the inside that goes on the inside skin stays the same. You do not change that at all. Don't touch it. Then bolts right in. I like test fitting the brackets back on there. So what I do is I put it on the glass on a stand, and I actually test fit, make sure that everything lines up before I put it in the car. And everything does line up. It's nice and snug, but probably because we have excess rubber here. We just cut it off, take a razor blade, cut off the rubber. There you go. Now you have the bracket can go in there nicely. This is the horizontal channel that we're going to be sliding into the regulators. You'll notice the holes on the end are the ones we're going to be using for, or actually the holes that it lines up to are the ones that we're going to be using to mount the glass to. You'll notice now that the glass itself is already mounted inside. We drilled an access hole roughly from this angled edge. It's roughly what, center, about an inch up, and it's a 1-inch hole that gives you direct access to the bolt or to the nut. This is the other one. You bolt those in. Notice that the on the regulator itself, I actually flattened out the rear. I flattened out the rear the nut, so when it passes through the regulator, when it passes through this section right here, it does not bind on the actual thread itself. I did it on both sides just for precautionary reasons. Now what we're gonna do is actually mount the front vertical guide. We're gonna drill a hole roughly here and another one roughly here. In the instruction manuals, you should see the exact dimensions of where to drill the hole. You might have to slot the top left to right a little bit, and also the bottom left to right for future adjustments. Once the window has to be in the up position to fully in the up position to install the vertical guide. Once the guide is in, you'll notice if you have to grind in the reinforcement plane behind this. Inside the hump assembly, the glass itself should come close to the hump, but not hitting it. If it does hit it or skim it, that means you have to grind the front corner of the inside of the hump. We will figure that out once the glass is fully bolted in on the vertical guide. For the upper mounting hole itself, we go from the edge of the crease, 6 3/4 across. We mark it, and then from this crease down 1 1/4 inch, and that's actually the top mounting bolt for the vertical guide. On the bottom, we go 5 inches across from the crease, 5 inches across from the crease, and then 2.5 inches up from this crease. So it'll give you roughly a spot right here. Remember to elongate the holes left to right, probably anywhere between 1/8 to 1/4 to give you some slack movement forward and back. Same goes with the top, forward and back a little bit. You can just use bigger washers, but normally I like to slot them a little bit and just use regular standard washers. Okay, with the holes already done and the vertical guide already in place, you need to put both rollers obviously in the bracket. It tops out at the rollers top end at the bracket, so they won't slip out at all. I made the hole a little bit long on this side for adjustments. I bolted it down to where I want it. You basically figure it out by rolling the window without the vertical guide on. You actually roll it all the way up, put it in the position you want it in. Just make sure it's in the correct position where you have no gaps at all around the perimeter of your glass. You'll notice you have a small gap right in here. You still haven't put on the scrapers yet. When the scrapers are on, it covers that gap because of the flappers that are in. If we were to make this glass a little bit bigger, you would never clear the front. So this is at the most, this is the biggest window we can get inside, considering the way the door is designed. The door, if you notice, tapers in like this, while the top is wider than the bottom. So this is the biggest you can get, but once we're done, you will never see that gap. The bottom hole was also elongated left to right a little bit. I still need to put the washer on, the big washer, and that's pretty much it. Once we're done, see, have you noticed I haven't wired it in yet? I normally wired the last thing I do is wiring. Right now what I'm using is actually my DeWalt charger, and as the window rolls up and down, it's gonna roll down quick because it's actually an 18-volt battery. Just go slowly. You notice it zipped down? Well, because it was 18 volts. When you go back up, because of the scrapers are not on, there's no stability on the window yet. But once the scrapers are on, it'll be nice and snug. Notice, nice. Now you'll notice without the scrapers in, your window is a little bit loose. Oh, actually the back came out. So we make an adjustment. We basically got to move this back a little bit because it needs to be further back inside. We'll show you that adjustment right now. You'll notice in this door, the window itself doesn't go down all the way because it's actually hitting this foam piece. Somebody put this in, which is not bad. It actually helps with it rattling against the actual stop itself, rattles against the door. So it does help, but they put too much. So we just got to cut off a little, make it even to the door stop, and your window will go all the way down.